What's going on, guys? My name is Christopher and welcome to It's Complicated, the show where I talk about and showcase wristwatches. So if you love watches like I do, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button, then click on the bell and you'll be all set. Today, I'm going to be telling you why I sold my Rolex Datejust reference number 16233. And it's not why you think. Here we go. So you guys might remember a couple of weeks ago, I talked about maybe selling my Rolex Datejust because I wanted to buy a Rolex Batman. Now, you guys left me some fantastic comments and gave me a lot to think about. Well, something I didn't mention in that video where I was talking about wanting to get a Rolex Batman was I already listed my Rolex Datejust 16233 for sale on Craigslist. I priced the watch a little high just to get a feel for how many people really wanted to buy that Datejust. And almost immediately, I got a couple of nibbles. I had this Asian guy text me a couple times back and forth, kind of lowballing me. And then the next morning, he calls me really early in the morning and he leaves me this voicemail. And all he said was, "Hello, hello." And that was it. That's all he said. I have no idea why you would leave that kind of voicemail for somebody, but he was well over $1,000 less than what I was asking. So it was just out of the question. Then I had a business in Florida call me and they wanted to buy my watch off of me because they had a client that was looking for a 16233 down in Florida. Now, I'm not a complete moron. I understand how business works, and I told these guys in Florida, so basically what you want to do is buy my watch cheap from me and then sell it to a profit to your client. I was like, why don't you just give me your client's phone number and I'll sell him my Datejust. And of course, the guy bit his tongue there because he knew there was no business to be had with me. Then the Craigslist ad got a little quiet for about a week. Now, another thing I didn't mention in that Batman video where I talked about possibly selling my Datejust was there's another Datejust I've had my eye on for actually a couple of months. The watch has been sitting in one of my local jewelers, one of these guys that doesn't do any business online. He only buys a watch if it comes over the counter and then he only sells it to an actual person in front of him. Now, this guy had two Datejusts in his store, but the one I had my eyes on had a white dial, Roman numerals, Jubilee bracelet. Yes, it is actually this watch, and I will show you pictures later as the story progresses. Now, I had been eyeing up this Datejust pretty much since he got it in. He's a very nice guy. Him and I chit-chat. I'd consider him a friend, and I even offered him to straight trade my two-tone Datejust for this Datejust. Now, granted, this Datejust came with box and papers. Mine did not, and he politely declined my request. Now, I got to mention that the price on this Datejust was absolutely fantastic, especially with box and papers. And when he got it in, he had the watch serviced. So it was just serviced and everything. So anyways, back to Craigslist. So I got a text from a guy who was interested in the watch, and he meant business. Now, in my ad, I offered to meet at an AD so we could get the watch authenticated, but this guy didn't want to get it authenticated. He was taking my word for it. So I figured he was either an expert on watches or he just had big balls. Of course, I sold the guy a genuine Rolex. However, I don't think I would meet anybody without getting the Rolex authenticated first. There's just too many scammers, too many fakes out there. So we met in public, we did the deal. It's always a thrill to me to have all that money sitting around on a table in public and somebody looking at this Rolex, etc., etc. I just get a big kick out of it. Now, I was a little hesitant to sell my two-tone Datejust. I mean, I made a video before and I talked about how that was kind of righting a wrong when I purchased that watch. But you know what? I did right that wrong. And I have my own taste. Not to say that I didn't love that 16233 because I did, and I wore it for almost 2 years pretty much every single day after I bought it. But you know what? After buying the Submariner, after buying the Speedmaster, I was finding myself wearing that two-tone Datejust less and less, especially in the winter. And I did have a guy mention that the two-tone gold on my wrist matches the gold on my neck, and I agree with you, buddy. However, I think if I was going to get a two-tone watch, I think I'd want a two-tone bluesy sub. I think that's the best two-tone watch. At least I think so. And really, at the end of the day, I would much rather have a solid gold watch. Nothing's going to match the gold around my neck like a solid gold watch. Anyways, I'm getting a little carried away. I just happen to like this Datejust better. I love the white dial. I actually like the Roman numerals. I like how dressy it is. It's just a very nice, dressy watch. Here's some pictures of my new Datejust, and eventually I am going to make a video where I totally unbox it. It came with everything. The box even has the original MSRP on it from 1999. And of course, eventually I'll do a showcase of the watch as well. Speaking of showcases, I did get a showcase filmed with the 16233. I'm probably going to upload the 16233 showcase on a week where I'm actually pretty busy, because right now I'm actually ahead of schedule as far as the show goes. You know, and I was looking at this Datejust for a couple months, and I certainly couldn't justify having two Datejusts. And you know, I was speaking with Clyde, and you guys know him, of course, and he was telling me the best thing about selling that two-tone Datejust is if I ever want to get it again, it's going to be very easy to find one of those. But you know, long story short, I bought that two-tone Datejust in 2015. I wore it for almost 2 years. I had it for 3.5 years. I sold it for a profit, and then I turned around and I bought a 16234 box and papers, everything for less than I sold the two-tone Datejust for. And I think that's a deal. You know, and it also goes to show you how powerful the Rolex brand can be. Somebody out there watching right now could find themselves buying a Rolex, wearing it for a couple years, loving the watch, and then thinking they want a new watch, and they can turn around and sell it for a profit as well. And that wraps up another episode of It's Complicated. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, like this video, share it with all your friends, and I'll see you next time on another episode of It's Complicated.